not my favorite. Very fond memories. This is actually the first system that I ever had. I remember it clear as day. We were living overseas and in South America, and nobody had this console. It wasn't out, and my dad was doing business in the U.S. and he came home with it, and it was like Christmas Day in like September, because he brought home the original Super Nintendo with Super Mario World, Mega Man X, and Aladdin. And yeah, oh my gosh, that basically started my life in gaming, and I haven't looked back since. So yeah, I guess first I'll go through what I play my systems on, right? What I play my Super Nintendo on right now, what I play my games on. And it's this right here. It's called a Retron 5. I'll try and get it into frame. A Retron 5. And so basically what this system is I believe it's 10 systems in one. And so starting off, here's a little like pictures. Game Boy Advance, Nintendo, Game Boy Advance, Famicom, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Genesis, and where the other systems come in is Game Boy Color and original Game Boy, right here, as well as Game Boy Advance. So, yeah, I mean, this is such an awesome system. It plays both the Super Nintendo and Super Famicom, NES, Famicom, and Genesis too. So, and on the side are the controller ports with original controller inputs. So right here we have Genesis, NES, and Super Nintendo right here at the end. And yeah, so you can plug in your original controllers. This is just a Super Nintendo controller, and it's a little torn up, but yeah, you can just plug it right on the side right there. And there's also another side with 3 other inputs for player 2. So the reason I use this over a actual original Super Nintendo is that my TV is kind of new and doesn't have AV cable inputs. So this runs off HDMI, and it upscales everything to 720. So everything looks super, super clean. And this system also has its own OS system, and you can like run save states, load save states. You can put on like different screen effects, so like overscan and a few like other like specific tweaking options, and then you can also like map any controller to whatever button, remap any controller to whatever buttons you want. So if I was playing Super Nintendo on this controller, I could set it to save state with the top left, and then to load state with the top right. So it's an awesome way to play retro games. And it also comes with its own wireless controller. Not gonna lie though, this thing's a piece of shit. It's just like super clunky. Look at this brick, like seriously. It does have a home button, which is pretty nice, and it is wireless. But like the contour of this just is so anti-ergonomic. It's just not a good controller. It has no D-pad. It only has a micro switch analog. Kind of in the vein of like a Neo Geo Pocket. So it's cool to hear like the micro switch, but it's just so uncomfortable to like hold this in play. So yeah, not the best thing there, but awesome system. This, when I got it, it retailed for 140. So considering it plays like so many systems, and then upscales to HD, at least in 720, it's totally worth it for me. So yeah, I can just set this up and just play most of my retro systems on there. So yeah, that's the system. I guess I'll go through original Super Nintendo games first. So, going through Super Game Boy. This is kind of portless with the Retron system since it has the Game Boy port right there. But if you had an original Super Nintendo, you could put in your Game Boy's games in here, and it will play it on a format that looks good on a big TV. And for like certain games, it supports different like custom frames. So like there's one for like Pokemon, and there's like one for Donkey Kong. So, and I think it adds even color to like original Game Boy games. So this is a really cool thing. It was awesome back in the day. This was like the coolest thing. But yeah, it's like I said, I play Game Boy games on this little slot right here, so there's no point for this. Put this off to the side. Going through one of my favorite beat 'em ups of all time, Turtles in Time, Turtles 4. Such a good game, so precise, and yeah, it's a 2-player beat 'em up. The arcade version goes up to 4-player, and yeah, this game is like really sought after. So I'm really glad to have it, and a lot of time spent playing this game as a kid. Here we go, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. This was the 3rd Zelda game. Actually, it might have been the 4th, considering the Game Boy game. But yeah, this is the first one on Super Nintendo, and actually the only one on Super Nintendo. And yeah, it's over the top action RPG, and actually not really RPG. I'd say it's like an action adventure game. Yeah, pretty classic. I don't know. Most people know Zelda, so I won't go too into it. Gradius 3. This is a shmup, shoot 'em up, where you're like a little ship. And yeah, I'm a big fan of Gradius, Parodius, that whole series. I like the power-up system where you can manually choose what you want, if you want like an option or to speed up, or if you want like a double shot. So yeah, I really, really enjoy shoot 'em ups, and this is a good one. It's definitely tough, but it's also one of the cheapest ones you can get for the Super Nintendo, because most shoot 'em ups are very collectible. So this one's probably in the $10-15 range. Really good. Okay, so this next one, if anybody actually knows what this game is, it's another shmup, and it's actually a reproduction cart. It doesn't say that it's a reproduction cart anywhere, because I got this off a site in China. Or not in China, I got it off AliExpress. And yeah, this I mean, it's pretty like legit for a reproduction. The label is pretty nice. It's starting to peel a little bit. It's not the best quality, but this shipped for $10 to my house in Chicago. So, I don't know if you're familiar with this game, but this is one of the most expensive and rarest Super Nintendo games in the entire library. This probably retails on eBay in like the $500 range. So to have a cart of this, even though it's a reproduction, for $10. As you can see, like, doesn't have like a back label like most games do. So yeah, I don't care that it's a reproduction. I don't care it's the original. I bought this to play the game, not to have like an expensive game, you know. So I am extremely happy having this, and yeah, to like the trained eye, you wouldn't know it was fake. Here's another game, platformer. It's pretty good. It's, I don't know where in the series there is, but there's a lot in this series, the Magical Quest series. Yeah, and they're all Mickey Mouse games. But yeah, they're solid platforming games. Yeah, I don't know, I don't think I've ever beat this, but it's pretty fun. Here's Star Wars Super Empire Strikes Back. I actually have the box for this. So yeah, this game is a platformer. It's known to be notoriously hard. I've never beat this game, and I've tried, and yeah, it's just like ridiculously hard. But yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I found this box for like $10 or $15, so couldn't pass it up. But yeah, here's some screenshots of how it looks like. You can ride, what are they, the wampums or something? Tauntauns, I don't know. So, pretty cool. You have like the lightsaber there, snow speeder section, fighting Vader. I think that's IG-88. Yep, it is. I don't know, so it's kind of cool. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry if you can hear that. I'm right next to the highway on the lake, and there was just a pike, or like a group of bikers that passed by, so sorry about that. This game is one of my favorite games on Super Nintendo. So good. So fucking good. Aladdin, Capcom, when they were making really, really good games. And yeah, this is much better than the Genesis version of Aladdin that was made by a different company, and I think they also Disney made the Genesis version, but this game is so much fun. The bosses, platforming just feels right. Very easy. You can beat this game in like 20 minutes if you know what you're doing. But yeah, really, really, really fun. And like I mentioned earlier, it was one of the first games I ever had, so I have very fond memories of that game. This is also a really, really good game. Super Mario All-Stars. It is a combination of the original Super Mario Bros., Super Mario 2, Super Mario 3, and the Lost Levels for the original Super Mario. All in one, up-res to 16-bit from its original version, which was 8-bit, so a lot more colors, and it just looks a lot better. Plays the exact same. And so yeah, I never had an NES, but I played all these games because of this cart. So yeah, really, really good game. Here's my favorite game of all time. Like I mentioned, this was one of the games that I got with the launch. And yeah, I just have super fond memories of me and my brother playing through this. And yeah, I know like everything about this game. And I have another video of me playing and beating it on the Game Boy Advance. So go ahead and check that out if you want to see some gameplay. Here's another shmup. A really shitty one. Really, really laggy. There's so much lag in this game. It's ridiculous. There's like slow down to like nothing. So yeah, was also R-Type 3, but that game's like a $200 game. So yeah, I haven't like really played this too much just because the slowdown is so crazy. Here's another one of my favorite games of all time, Mega Man X, one that I got with the launch. And yeah, this was such a good game. It's pretty difficult. It's a 2D action platformer. And yeah, bosses, you like obtain the bosses, you like fight bosses, and each one gives you their power, and you use that power to take down other bosses quicker. So each one has like if you beat the fire boss, you'll get his fire weapon, and that'll make the ice boss easier. So that kind of thing. Put this to the side here. Alright. This is UN Squadron. Another shooter, shmup, whatever. Capcom, and this is a really good one. A lot of customization. You can like buy upgrades at the store and stuff. And a lot of replayability with this one. Again, with all shmups, they're pretty challenging. But it's all about remembering the patterns and yeah, taking down the bosses. So highly recommend this one. Man, I'm starting to notice a theme here. This is another shooter, or shmup, whatever. Earth Defense Force. This is just an okay game, though. It's probably still pretty cheap. And yeah, I'm like kind of on a mission to get all the shmups on the system, which will probably never happen, but I'm trying. So yeah, pretty good. This is a really, really cool game. This is not a reproduction, this is a ROM hack of Super Mario World, what I mentioned is my favorite game. And this is Super Mario World Return to Dinosaur Island. So someone went ahead and redesigned all the levels to make them more challenging, made like the overworld like different. This game is completely different than Super Mario World, and it's highly recommended. Now, I'd only recommend it to seasoned Super Mario World players, as this is pretty challenging. Every level has like a secret exit kind of thing, and they're pretty hard to find. It took me a while, but highly, highly recommend this game. And yeah, I got it at a convention in Portland, and I don't know, that was pretty cool. It came with like its own little box and insert, so not a big deal, but I thought it was kind of cool. Such a good game. Here is Illusion of Gaia. This is an action RPG, and yeah, it's part of a three-part series or something. I think it's like the second part. The first part's like Terranigma or something, but that game never came out in the US. And there's another one. But anyway, this plays pretty much very similar to maybe a mix between The Secret of Mana and I would say Legend of Zelda. So yeah, it's pretty nice. It's not turn-based, so that's why I kind of like it. I'm not a huge fan of turn-based games, especially at that age. Just because the encounters that you have, like random encounters in those games, is so frequent that it just feels like a grind. So I like action RPGs more on these older systems, just because they don't feel as much as like you're grinding out, you know, for the game. Anyway, so this label is infamous at least in the shmup scene, because this is so random. Like, it has some old dude playing banjo, and it has nothing to do with what the game is. You can see there's a ship at the top there. It's the shooter. It's another shmup. Like a spaceship that you shoot, and this has an interesting viewpoint. It's vertical scroller, but it's like there's like a horizon at the top of the screen, and it kind of like it looks as if it's like being filmed through like a fisheye lens. I don't even know how to explain it. It's very interesting. It's a pretty good shmup. I mean, not the best, but it's still probably pretty cheap. Here is Secret of Mana. This is another action RPG similar to Illusion of Gaia. This is a pretty popular one. A lot of people like this. It's really good. The story's really good. There's also multiplayer or like co-op, so you can play through this entire RPG with another person. And I might be wrong, but I think you can hook up a 4-score to it and play it even with 4 players, because you have like a 4-player party, and it's action RPG, so no turn-based, made by Squaresoft. And yeah, this was like one of the flagship RPG titles. A lot of people really like this game. Probably the most valuable game I have in this lot. Here I have Darius Twin, another shmup from in the Darius series. Nothing too special, pretty good game. I think this one's kind of rising in value. Most people are trying to pick up the Darius series on all the systems, because I've noticed they're going up in price. But yeah, definitely a solid game. Oh, you know what? I think this game was the first game in the or maybe not. No, maybe not. This is called Secret of Evermore, another action RPG by Squaresoft. Really good game. Haven't beat it, but very similar to Secret of Mana or Illusion of Gaia. So as you can tell, I like those action RPGs. This one's Tiny Toons. Buster Busts Loose. Surprisingly a pretty solid platformer. One of the few ones that has like a run button, so similar to Super Mario World or something like that. Yeah, but just a platformer. Pretty fun, fast paced. Here we have Super Metroid. One of the more popular titles on the system. Really good game. Yeah, it's an action platformer that as you like unlock superpowers and upgrades, you have to like double back in the map and unlock new areas. So it's pretty cool. It's been a while since I've played it, but I think I'm gonna actually play this one pretty soon. Go back through it. Here is another shooter, Axley. Yeah, just another shmup. I don't know, I'm a big fan of them. I should probably sit down and like memorize some of these games, because yeah, I've never beat this game, and it's hard. These games are hard. You have to like sit down, take the time to memorize the patterns, and I haven't yet, but it's on my backlog. Here is the last Super Nintendo game that I own. It's Block. It's kind of like a hidden gem for platformers. You get like powers, and it's super colorful. It's definitely not the greatest, but if you're looking for like a side-scrolling platformer, it's pretty fun, and probably still pretty cheap. So, probably I'd say like in the $10 range. One thing I have noticed is that Super Nintendo collecting is out of control expensive right now. I don't know if it's like a big thing. Like, it seems like retro gaming is on the rise, and a lot of these games are going up in price. So if you want to pick up some of these games, I'd probably recommend doing that sooner than later, because they're gonna get pricey. And yeah, so just keep that in mind if you're on the fence about retro game collecting. And that pretty much goes for every system nowadays that's retro, especially NES, and even Genesis is starting to rise. So what some collectors have started doing is, because the American versions are too expensive, most people buy the Japanese, or not most people, but people that don't mind not having American versions have been buying Super Famicom versions of the game. So that's what I have done. And I mean, the downside with that is you can't like buy an RPG because it's so text heavy that you won't be able to play it unless you have a Retron 5, in which case you can, here I'll show you, in which case you can upload fan translations and ROM translations, or on this with an SD card. And I'm not really sure. I haven't done it with any of these because all the Super Famicom games that I have are not text heavy, and their menus are in English, or there's like minimal Japanese text. So yeah, you might have to do some fiddling around in the menus. But I mean, there's usually like 4 options. It's like start game, new game, and like options are like the 3 things. So it's like really just a matter of trial and error. Excuse me for a second. So let's see. Starting off with Famicom, Super Famicom, sorry. This is Kirby Super Deluxe. This has like a few Kirby games. They're not complete games. It has like a few mini games, and then like 3 or 4 Kirby campaigns. I would call them like campaigns. And yeah, Kirby's awesome. Like getting like superpowers and eating enemies. This is also a co-op player, so really fun to play this with someone else. Yeah, highly recommended. And again, this game is like a $10-15 game for Super Famicom, but the American version's like a $35 game. So, and again, it's a platformer. You don't really need to know what's going on in the text. So, here is Super Bonk. This game is the first game in the from the Super Nintendo, or the Super Famicom, in the Bonk series. And yeah, it's just a platformer. You're like this little dude with a big head, and you get a lot of different superpowers. And yeah, it's pretty fun. Here's Poppin' Twinbee. It's a shmup. Not really the greatest. One that never came out in the US. And yeah, it's Konami. I don't know. They make pretty solid shmups. So. Here's ActRaiser. This one actually is pretty hard to play. The first one is pretty hard to play in Japanese because there's like platforming, and then there's also like God mode builder sections, and or like it's more like in line with like Age of Empires. So you do a little bit of like community building and then also platforming. But the community parts are hard because you have to fiddle through the menus. But if you go online, you can find screenshots of translated menus. It's not really a big deal if you care enough to do that. I have Donkey Kong 2, Donkey Kong Country 2, awesome platformer. This is my favorite in the series, mainly because it has the two best characters. They're both pretty light and nimble, and yeah, really good game. Here's Super Donkey Kong, the original, or Donkey Kong Country, the original. Really good game, but yeah, like I said, number 2 is my favorite. Here's Super Tetris 2 plus Bomb Bliss, a game that never came out in the US, and it's pretty cool. It's got Tetris and also like a version with like different bombs. I got this in Japan. I got it complete in box. And yeah, if you can see here, it has regular Tetris right here, but it also has bomb. So these red pieces are bombs. So if you like make a line, it'll like blow up that area. So that just adds another mechanic to that. Here I have one more boxed Super Famicom game. This one's ridiculous. It's called Ski Paradise. I mainly got it because of the cover. It was like $2 boxed. I'm sure I've never played it, and I'm sure it's a really shitty game. But I'm a big snowboarder, and I just thought that this was awesome. And like, look how pristine this comes. Like, pretty cool. It's like literally like $3 boxed. So I couldn't pass it up just based on how cheesy the cover was. Here's a game that actually I can't really play. Even though it's an action RPG, this is Seiken Densetsu 3, which basically translates to Secret of Mana 2 in the US. We never received this game in the US. But yeah, it's just a continuation of the Secret of Mana series. And yeah, you can get a translation for it and play it without a problem. Here is Donkey Kong Country 3, probably my second favorite. I just love Dixie and her like hair hover thing. And I forget what his name's called. It's like Baby Kong or something. But yeah, pretty solid. So here we have Yoshi's Island. This is a solid platforming game. I guess it's also called Super Mario World 2. But it's not really in the same series. It has its own mechanics, and you're riding Yoshi the entire time with Baby Mario on your back. So yeah, it has an awesome color palette, and I think it's got like some crazy, I don't know if you can see that chip. It's got like a really unique chip. And yeah, the art style is pretty unique. Like, I don't know, most cards come like that. See, this has it's like 2 extra prongs right here. So, I don't know. Really good game. I guess I'll go from the back here. This is Parodius Da. This is the second Parodius game in... Well, I guess it'd be the third Parodius game in the series, the second one for the Super Famicom. We never got this game here in the States. I'm pretty sure they got it in the UK or in PAL regions. But yeah, this is basically a parody of their Gradius shmup games. And yes, it's a shmup, with like ridiculous sprites, like you're an octopus and you have to fight a pirate cat, and that's like one of the bosses. Another boss is like this giant lady and you have to like go in between her legs. Pretty weird. Another, yeah, it's like octopus, a penguin, and instead of like a spaceship, you're like an octopus. So I love these. These are some of my favorite shmups, and actually a really good one to get into if you're trying to like get into the shmup genre. It's very, not easy, but one of the easier ones to get into. And yeah, this probably goes for like $20, so not too bad for a shmup. Here I have Castlevania 4. Yeah, it's the, I don't know, yeah, it's the first Castlevania on Super Famicom, Super Nintendo. It's pretty good. It's not a Metroidvania kind of game where you have to go and double back. It's more stage-based, like the original NES games. So yeah, you just fight through stages, and yeah, it's pretty good. I've never beat it. It's pretty hard. But yeah, I'd like to one day. Here we have a pretty classic game, Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Yeah, just a fighter. I suck at fighters. I was never good at them, and I still don't really like to play them. But I figured I'd have this in my collection, and it's also, the Japanese version is literally like $5, so that's $5 shipped in the US. Here's Mega Man X2. It's actually called Rockman in Japan, so Rockman X2. Yeah, just another one in the X series. I prefer the X series compared to the original series, just because I like the charge shot, the wall jumping, and the dashing and stuff. I know some of the original series ended up having that, but they definitely didn't have the wall jump. And there's a lot of upgrades, and yeah, these are really, really fun. This is Rockman X3. This is the third and final in the Super Famicom library. And yeah, this has a signature of two retro video game YouTubers. And yeah, I don't know, I brought this to a convention and I wanted them to sign it, so yeah, I really like them. They're Retro Liberty, so go check them out. Yeah, and also, like, these two games are over $100 in the US, and the American versions are like, this one's like probably like 25, and this one's like maybe like 30, 35, so you save quite a bit of money there if all you want to do is play through them. But yeah, I highly recommend getting the Super Famicom versions. It's cool. I don't